welcome to my knitting podcast. I'm in an absolutely wonderful mood today because I have just passed my driving test like an hour ago, and it's been 10 months in the making. This is my first attempt at a test and I got through it, so I'm absolutely elated. But on to more important things, we have a lot of knitting to catch up on. I feel like it was only about 6 weeks ago that I did my last podcast, but I have like 5 finished objects to share with you. 2 of them are sweaters, 2 works in progress, and a bunch of new yarn to show you. So this might be a bit of a longer one, so grab your knitting, let me know what you're knitting. I'm always so interested to know, and let's dive in. My first finished object is this Little Lies sweater by Wool and the Gang. You'll have seen me reworking on this in my previous podcasts because I got this kit for Christmas and it came with the pattern and the yarn. So it's been on my needles for a very long time, 10 months basically. Oh no, I did finish it at the end of September, so 9 months. And I just like whacked it out towards the end of it because I just really wanted to wear it. So it's got this gorgeous slip stitch pattern in the middle, and it is constructed by knitting a front panel, a back panel, the sleeves of course, and then seaming it all together and adding a collar on the top. I knitted this in 6.5mm needles with 5mm needles for the ribbing on the collar and hems and such, and I've knitted this in a size small. The yarn is Wool and the Gang's Feeling Good yarn, which is a mix of alpaca, merino wool and nylon. I have already worn this a few times and it's lovely and soft. It's not too itchy on my delicate skin, which is great after all those months of effort. At the time I was kind of thrown off by the construction of this because I thought that seaming panels together was like a beginner's tactic and then knitting top down raglan was more intermediate, but like now that I have a bit more clarity, I realise that knitting this with the panels is kind of the only way to have this slip stitch design sit the way that it does. However, by knitting panels, you can't really gauge arm length that well. So for the body length, I knew I wanted to crop it much more than the original panel pattern suggested. So I think I took about 10 centimetres of how long the pattern said to make this. But I did knit the sleeves as long as the pattern suggested. They were just right before blocking, but after blocking they have gotten a bit longer to the point where ideally they would be a little bit shorter, but I can get away with it. Like, they're not covering my whole hand, but they are covering me right to the edge of the fingertips. I've actually had this completed for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and it has already like solidified itself in my wardrobe as a knit that I will actually wear, which is such a relief because I really wanted this to be like a basic that I would actually reach for and not just something that was a process knit. So I'm very glad to report that I do reach for it. I think it looks great just with some blue jeans or grey jeans. One thing I will say is that I think that these project kits are very expensive comparative to just buying yarn and buying a pattern and making it yourself. I am not 100% sure of the price because it was a gift, but I think it's somewhere around the £100 range, which is pretty crazy. I know the yarn is great quality, but I would say definitely if you want this, like, look out for Black Friday sales, because I think Wool and the Gang goes on sale like a lot, to the point where you're really wondering if it's ever worth the full price type of sale. What else will I say about the sweater? The seaming took so long. I did not enjoy the seaming process. So I knit up everything together and I was like, oh great, like it's basically done. No, full day of seaming. Full day, because the sleeves weren't knitting around either. I had to seam up the entire sleeves, mattress stitch like everything. Was it mattress stitch? I think it was mattress stitch. Before I could even like think about the collar. And the way that they told me to do the collar, I didn't really pay attention to how they told me to do the collar. I just did it my own way with my own needles and not the ones that they provided. But they basically wanted me to seam one shoulder, then knit the collar not in the round, and then seam up the other shoulder and the collar, which I think is just written that way so that you don't have to knit in the round at all, but I don't mind knitting in the round. So yeah, there she is. Big fan of her, big fan of the pattern. This pattern doesn't seem to exist like on Ravelry or on Instagram at all. There's very few samples of this kicking around or photos of it, but I think it's a really nice design here. It's a very simple, I don't even want to call it colour working technique. I'm sure it is, but it wasn't difficult at all to follow, and I think that the slip stitch design is really effective as well. So I'm glad that I learned how to do that. Let's talk about this halter neck top. So I did an entire project vlog about this, so I won't go on about it too much. I knit this halter neck top from a vintage 1970s pattern made by the brand Sirdar, who also make yarn, and I knitted it in Drops Fable, I'm pretty sure, in the colour Off-White, which is a fingering weight wool. It's constructed with making a front panel and a back panel, then seaming the two together. Pretty simple construction. It's got 2x2 rib, I think, yeah, 2x2 rib that really hurt my hands to do actually in the fingering weight yarn, even though it's wool. But I think it looks really good on. I haven't worn it since I made it because it is a bit itchy, so maybe I do need to consider putting in a lining, especially just around the neck, so that I can cope with the itchiness. I think I said I would do that in my project vlog, and I clearly haven't done that yet. The pattern itself was a 1970s pattern, so it wasn't the easiest to follow, but I won't talk about it too much in case you've seen that vlog, and I will just be repeating itself. But yeah, kind of a success because it looks good on, kind of a failure because it's itchy. I wouldn't use Drops Fable again on anything that has like next to skin contact. I thought I could get away with it because the yarn said that it would be suitable for baby garments, but maybe some babies are hardier than me because yeah, I can't cope with the itchiness of this, unfortunately. While we're on the subject of things I made project vlogs about, here is my newest creation. She is very freshly washed and blocked. I think I finished this about 3 days ago, and I made an entire project vlog about the making of this. I made it in 5 days with Drops brushed alpaca silk held double, and the pattern is sweater number 6. Oh, I could be wrong. I think it's 6. By My Favourite Things Knitwear. The only thing I changed about the pattern was making the sleeves a lot shorter because I knew that this yarn would stretch, and I have already worn this out more than once, I think, maybe twice. Once for a full day and then once just for a few hours, and I am very happy to report that my skin is fine with it and I absolutely love it. It's one of those things that while I was knitting I wasn't 100% sure that I would love, but now that it's finished I really, really like it. And I think the colours look so good together. I think they look good on me. I'm, yeah, absolutely like ecstatic about how this knit has gone, because I was really like halfway through it I was thinking, oh man, maybe this has been a waste of time, a waste of very intense knitting. I ended up finishing this just before my birthday, and on my birthday it was still too wet to wear, unfortunately. So yeah, I've had this around for under a week, and I think this is going to be a very well-worn piece this autumn. And I'm so happy that both of the sweaters that I've made in the past 2 months are already like being worn in my wardrobe, because I think I always aim to wear my projects, but it doesn't always happen, unfortunately. Like for example with that halter neck vest, like some things you just don't think are gonna be itchy end up being itchy. So yeah, 2 for 2 for the sweaters makes me very happy. This next project is a very exciting one because it is an advanced level pattern, and it's also my first real colour work. So this is the advanced pattern from my Hooks and Needles subscription box that I got in September. Hooks and Needles are a previous sponsor of my channel, so I did get this yarn and pattern and box and stuff for free, And I do think that my discount code is still valid if you want to get, I think it's 20% off your first box. So the box comes with 3 patterns, like a beginner, an intermediate and an advanced pattern. I thought I was going to make the beginner pattern because it was a cute little tote bag, but my mum got hold of the pattern booklet and she absolutely fell in love with the photo of this little scarf that is the advanced pattern. And I thought, you know what, like, I've never made my mum a knit before, it's overdue, and why not use this box as a way for me to hone my skills. So this scarf is basically got colour work in it, but the colour work is done with a purl stitch instead of a knit stitch. The booklet comes with a QR code for a chart. I pretty much exclusively just followed the chart. Never followed a chart before, but I found it pretty self-explanatory. I found it a lot easier to read than like a long list of like knit, purl, knit, purl, switch colour, purl, knit. Like couldn't do that. I'd look down and then I'd look back up and I wouldn't know where it was. I did change a bit of the pattern so that the scarf was a bit wider, and so it lies a bit differently. I think I made it a bit longer as well. So it's a bit of like a neckerchief type of vibe, but my mum really likes the colours and I think it's quite a unique shape. Be good to put under quite like a tight fitting coat as well. This is knit up with the merino wool that came in the box, which didn't have a weight written on it, but I want to say it's DK weight. From the feel of it, I would guess it's DK weight, and it's very lovely and soft. I found that blocking this was so satisfying. Like normally, like my stitch pattern, stitch definition, I guess, doesn't really change that much with blocking, but with the colour work you could really see everything relax. This is what the wrong side looks like. I'm pretty happy with my tension here. There is a bit of dodgy tension at the bottom here because I got some stitches wrong. So I basically did some, not surgery, but like I undid like up to 10 rows, but just in the middle, and then re-knit those 10 rows how they were meant to be. So you can see there are some like imperfections here, and on the other side like the tension has changed because I did that, but I'm really happy that I did that because the colorwork stitches are purls and not knits. I didn't feel comfortable just doing duplicate stitch over the top to fix my mistakes. So yeah, I'm very, very proud. And now my last finished object is actually still a bit damp, but it is this tea towel. So I saw a TikTok, I think probably about 2 weeks ago, of a guy saying if you want to use up your scrap cotton, just crochet a tea towel. And I thought, oh, you know what, like I've got this fingering weight cotton yarn that I bought from Sister and Gren in April in colours that I realised I don't really like enough to make like a garment with, and they've just been sitting there taking up space, taking up mental space, when I knew that I didn't really want to use them for anything. And when I heard that, I was like, oh wait, yeah, I am going to be doing that. So this isn't like the best that I could do. If I really, you know, put my mind to it, I could make a tea towel that looks a lot better than this, but really, like, we don't have like an aesthetic kitchen. I just wanted to use up this yarn. So I used 2 strands of fingering weight Sister and Gren cotton yarn with a 3.5mm hook to make this big dense granny square, and I then ended up with more of one colour than the other, so I just kept going round the edge of the granny square until that second bowl was done. So yeah, I actually think it's kind of cuter than I expected it to be. I really expected it to just look like a scrap of material, but the colours are quite nice, I think, for a kitchen. I followed a YouTube tutorial on how to make them really like not holy, so that when I grab a hot tray out the oven, I don't end up like burning myself through the holes. And yeah, really don't have that much to say about this, but a very good scrap yarn project, and I now don't have like the mental weight of having yarn that I have no use for. on me. So this is gonna actually go back out to finish drying before it gets put in my kitchen. That is all my finished objects. I now have 2 works in progress to share with you, both of which I have a lot of feelings about. First of all, my blouse number 1. Last time you saw this, I would have been very happily, I think, starting on the sleeves. And I said that I wanted to use 1 strand of Drops brushed alpaca silk to do the sleeves in a nice, like, cute, open gauge, like, semi-sheer kind of way. I knitted 1 sleeve in Drops brushed alpaca silk. This is the colour Sweet Apricot. I ended up using the other balls of it for my sunset sweater, so it ended up being quite good that I didn't want to go down this route, otherwise I wouldn't have had enough yarn for that sweater. I really don't like how it looks. I really don't like how it looks. I think it is mainly to do with the fact that the sleeve starts down here instead of up here. I think that is my main issue with it, and I also think the colours don't blend together as well as I initially thought. I think this is a very cool toned, not very, but slightly cool toned palette, and this is slightly warm toned. I did try and blend the two together. I did a few rows of switching between the 2 colours, like at varying ratios, which does make it look better than if it were a straight line. But yeah, even knowing that this would get a lot looser and more flared with blocking, I don't think it's enough to save it. So I got really in my head about it. I was like, I don't know what to do. I hate it. I tried it on and I really realised that I didn't like the colours that much either. I don't like how with a raglan and the self-striping yarn I've used for the body, the stripes end up being like a big square. I was getting really frustrated and put off, and so what I decided to do, so the yarn for the body is 50-50 cotton and acrylic. It is Rico Creative Cotton Camouflage. Still got a little bit of it here. I think it's a really nice colour, but I don't think it's the sort of thing that I would wear. Which, you know, I got like blindness from just seeing how pretty the yarn was, and you know, just got caught in like my fantasy self and what I might wear. So I got halfway down the second sleeve, I decided I'm just going to continue with this, because if at least it is all cotton and acrylic, maybe I can dye it if I end up not liking it. Because I knew that I really didn't like this and I didn't like the cut-off point, so I thought, you know what, the best thing to do is to make the sleeves in the same material. I got this far down the second sleeve, then I realised that I wouldn't have enough of this cotton yarn to finish off both the sleeves with it. So before I went any further and used up any more of my self-striping yarn, I went on Wool Warehouse and I bought this small ball of DK weight cotton soft DK, 50% cotton, 50% acrylic, by the same brand, in a very similar colour to one of the stripes. I thought it would be sort of dead on because it's the same brand. I thought they would maybe use the same dyes. I'm not sure if it is, but I think it's close enough, and I think this is a cute colour that is in the same composition, so if I do end up dyeing it, hopefully the difference in the yarns won't be affected. So the plan is switch between these and this to finish off this sleeve, and then go back, unravel this sleeve and redo it with these yarns. I also, while I was in the depth of my frustration and my panic, I did buy some synthetic dye. This is Rit Dye More Synthetic in Midnight Navy, that says it is good for polyester, nylon and acrylic. It also said it's good for cotton blends, I think, or acrylic blends with cotton. So the reason that I didn't just keep on going with this and dye it and keep the difference in fibres and have the colour be the thing that blends everything is because this is alpaca and silk. So this needs to be dyed with a completely different dye than something that would dye cotton and acrylic. With this dye, you have to boil the garment for like at least 30 minutes. And I just know that boiling alpaca isn't gonna work. It's gonna do something to the fibres. I'm still not 100% convinced the cotton is gonna stay intact through being boiled for an hour, but I'm willing to take that chance if this ends up being something that I'm not gonna wear. So I'm gonna finish the garment first, try it on, maybe keep it around for a month or two, see if I do end up wearing it in the current colour scheme, and if I don't, then it's boiling time, baby. We're gonna get a big pot of midnight navy stew going, but I'm persevering. Work in progress number 2 is the mixed rib cami by Handmade by Florence. I only started on this a few days ago, and this is what I've got so far. It's knitted on 3mm needles with fingering weight yarn. I'm using Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the shade Red Currant, so it is taking a bit of a while to get anywhere. Now, the problem that I have had with this one, the mixed rib is done by panels of stockinette mixed with panels of twisted rib. So that's what I did the gauge swatch in, and on about row 2 of the gauge swatch, I realised that if I have to purl through the back loop, I don't like knitting. I don't like knitting anymore. I don't want to do it. It was row 2 and I wanted to put the gauge swatch down, didn't want to continue. It was taking me forever. I was so frustrated, and I just knew that this wasn't going to get done if I had to knit that way. And yeah, it probably would have gotten a lot easier if I had persevered, but especially with this size of needles and with a cotton blend, I didn't feel like it was the right time for me to practice, especially because I'm not knitting this one for the process. I'm knitting this because I want to wear the finished garment, so I don't want the tension to be all over the place. So I looked on Ravelry, I looked through everyone else's notes to see if anyone else was struggling as much as me, and I did see that someone just didn't do the twisted part of the rib, they just did the rib normally. And the only difference that it made in the way the cami looked was it was sort of less open worky, less sheer, I guess, or see-through. And I thought, well, that's kind of perfect because I want to wear this to my office anyway, so less sheer is like, that's what I want anyway. So I have just gone ahead and done this ribbing without the twisted part of it. Maybe in the future I'll revisit this when I have better knitting skills and I'll make this the way that it was supposed to be, but for now we have got a slightly less mixed rib cami. I'm knitting the second smallest size, and yeah, this is about, I think I knitted this mainly yesterday and today, so this is very much in its infancy as a project, but I am very, very excited for the finished garment. I think that is going to propel me forward to completing this, even though the tiny needles and the cotton yarn aren't my favourite to work with. I think it's one of those ones that once you get into the swing of things, it becomes an awful lot easier. And I absolutely adore this shade of red. I think this is exactly the right shade of red for me. It's like very slightly warm toned, but not like orangey. It's nowhere near like a burnt orange or anything, but it's also nowhere near like a blue red. So that is my second work in progress, and now let's talk about my yarn acquisitions. Actually, before the yarn, I have a sewing project acquisition to show you. So this was actually gifted to me by the brand that does these kits, but I wanted to show you before I've even started it because I think this is going to be something I'm going to do this weekend, and I think it's cool. Like, I'll show you what it looks like beforehand and then you can compare it to the finished product. This brand is called Babylon Leather, and they specialise in leather bag sewing kits. So you can go on their website and browse what the bags look like in their finished state, and then they ship you all the materials you need to make the bag, which is kind of my idea of a good time with sewing, because I do enjoy like the actual sewing, but I really can't do like the precision part of it. I'm not a very precise person. I also prefer hand sewing to machine sewing, which is what this project is. So I have this big box that comes with lots of leather pieces. And the pieces all come pre-stamped with holes in, so you don't have to worry about doing that. You just have to worry about putting the thread through it. It also comes with the hardware, so the zip is in here, and there's all sorts of bits and bobs that I haven't even looked in here. I think one of these things is a strap. This has come at a very opportune time for me because my work laptop bag has just broken and I need a new one, and this is absolutely lovely quality leather. It smells so good. I'm really excited to have like an actual leather, big leather handbag. I don't think I've ever had one of those before, so this is going to be great. And I love the design of the final product. They have lots of designs to choose from, but this one specifically appealed to me because it's got like shorter straps and longer straps on it, and it's a good dimensions with a zip so you can put your laptop in it and everything's secure. So yeah, I'm really excited to get started on this. As they sent it to me, I do have an affiliate link. If you're interested, I'll pop that in the description below, and I'll show you the finished product in my next knitting podcast. So for yarn, I made a small wool warehouse order when I wanted to get that cotton and acrylic blend yarn to use for my blouse number 1. And I thought while I was there, you know how it is, you get carried away, you're looking at all the other yarns, like I'm paying for shipping anyway, maybe I'll get something else. And I thought that would be a perfect time for me to buy a yarn for my beanie number 1 by My Things Knitwear that I said I wanted to make in my autumn knitting plans. If you've watched that video, you know I went on a complete tangent about what colour to make this beanie in, and I got some amazing comments helping me out. I said that I was a soft summer in that video, like my colour palette, and I had a few comments saying, girl, you're an autumn, and I was not receptive to that at first. Mainly because I exclusively wear silver jewellery. I really dislike gold jewellery on me. Like, I've tried many times to wear gold jewellery and I just cannot stand it on me. I really don't like the colour orange on me, and so I thought, oh, I can never be an autumn. Like, if I like silver, I must be a summer. But after I got those comments, and then after I watched Candid Knit's video on her knitting in her colour palette, she said she was a soft summer, and I was like, ah. I don't look like that. I must be an autumn. I must have a much warmer complexion than what you need to be a summer. So I looked into the soft autumn colour palette, and it actually says that you can wear silver jewellery, and there's no orange in that colour palette either. So I was like, okay, this maybe has solved like all of my colour woes. I've just been putting myself in the wrong category. So I was talking about how I maybe wanted to make a shade of blue for this beanie, and the shade of blue that I originally went for was like a very bright sort of royal cobalt blue, which wasn't in the colour palette. Then I was looking at all the other shades of Drops Air. That was the yarn that I was looking at, and there was another shade of blue that did look very close to one in the colour palette, and it is this one. So this is just called Blue. It's colour number 16, and I think this is actually a very good match for me. I can see myself really wearing this. It's so lovely and soft. I think this is a worsted weight yarn, and I think it's a blown yarn as well. It's made of baby alpaca and merino wool, made in Peru, and because my alpaca jumpers have both been very kind to my skin, I think I might just have like a good tolerance for alpaca. Well, we'll test that theory at least with this beanie. But I'm so happy with this colour. I never would have picked this out by myself. I always would have gone for either something like deeper or more neon, but this, like, it's great. Like, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that like I kind of see a path forward while choosing colours as well. And I think that this is probably the closest colour to my eye colour. I think someone in the comments did actually say to get a shade of blue that matches my eyes, and I think this is probably the closest one too. So yeah, I'm really excited to work with this yarn. It feels amazing, and this is exactly what it's going to look like when it's finished. I think it's yeah, it's going to go really well with like my hair colour, with my skin colour. Over the moon with my being told that I am an autumn. Thank you for everyone for guiding me through this very difficult and troubling time. And now to wrap this up, I have some birthday yarn to show you. Yes, it was my birthday. Yes, I am a year older. I am 27 and I feel great about it. So I did get some very special birthday yarn that I certainly would never have bought myself, but I'm very excited to use all of this. So again, these are projects from my autumn knitting plans that I'm going to create with these yarns. I asked in my autumn knitting plans for advice for very soft fingering weight wool yarn, and I got some amazing recommendations, so thank you to everyone that chipped in with that. I've actually made a compilation list of all the recommendations. I'll put it on the screen in case you're interested, of like yarns that have been like thumbs up, sensitive skin, super soft, softest fingering weight wool you can get, and I think I'm going to refer back to that list in future when I want other yarns. So I thought I wanted to make a red crochet sweater. I think it's called the Chestnut Sweater by Coffee and Crocheting, the pattern that I'm going to use. I thought I wanted to make that in red, but I went through all the yarns that were recommended and none of them had a shade of red that was quite right for me. They all looked like too neon or too blue toned or far too orange toned, and I'm very picky with my reds. Like I really basically just want that red currant colour from Knitting for Olive that I'm doing the mixed rib cami in. I just want that shade of red. That's the only one that I know is good, the only one that I know is approved. So then I started thinking, okay, what colour can I make this sweater in? And a few people had recommended to me Kinross 4-ply by We County Yarns. This really appealed to me, partly because people said it felt like cashmere, and partly because like it's Scottish wool, which I thought I can never really knit with Scottish wool because I know Scottish wool is meant to be like very rustic, like just far too itchy for me. But the idea I can knit with Scottish wool and it's going to be really soft really appealed to me. They didn't have that many colours and most of them weren't really appealing to me, but there was this one colour, the colour Quartz, here it is, which is this very lovely, extremely light grey, verging on dark white, if you could say that. I'm sure that if you took a picture of this in the wrong light, you would think that it was white. And this is 100% superfine lamb's wool, Kinross 4-ply, 50 grams, shade 16 quartz, spun in Scotland by Todd and Duncan. And I am very excited to work with this. I have 6 skeins of it and I am going to start on that fingering weight crochet sweater I've been going on about. It feels very lovely. I am so excited to see if this lives up to the cashmere claims, and yeah, I'm very excited to have like a completely made in Scotland sweater as well. But I think I may have saved the very best for last with this little package. This is the Plain Material Monday yarn, and if your Instagram algorithm has picked up on the fact that you knit, you may have seen this advertised. This is a very new company. This company launched in September and I have been eyeing up their yarns since they've launched. This is 100% brushed silk, lace weight, dyed and spun in Italy, and this is the shade Off-White in 25 grams of it. It is incredible. I've never knit with 100% silk before and I'm kind of like in awe of this. This is very expensive yarn. This is £16 per 25 gram bowl and I have 3 bowls of it here, which I feel like a very lucky girl to have, and I am going to make the Ophelia tank by Starcrossed Knits with this. I knew I wanted to make a silk tank top before, but I thought it was going to be another of my favourite things knitwear pattern. I thought it was going to be the camisole number 9 or something, but I think the Ophelia knit tank is a new release by Sarkos Knits, and as soon as I saw it I was like, yeah, that is the one. And the recommended yarn for that tank is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, so I feel quite comfortable going in with another 100% silk yarn and not worrying about like not being able to get it over my shoulders because it doesn't have that much stretch, sort of thing. And yeah, like the brush, I've never seen anything like this before. It looks just like pure luxury, and it is pure luxury, I guess. Yeah, fully designer yarn. I feel really happy with where I'm at with my projects. I don't feel far too overwhelmed with what I want to achieve, and I'm again just so happy that I've got some sweaters that I can wear daily for this autumn. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed, and take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!